Cooking Classic. I'm Jane Adonisio here with Chef Dave Pembleton. Hi, Chef.
Hello, how are you?
I'm well. We are here at Luzerne County Community College's Paglaniti Culinary Institute in Nanticoke. And Chef, you're going to teach us some more great recipes. What do you have in store?
Well, we're going to do some sauteing tonight, Jane. We've got two recipes in store, kind of classic recipes, one called a Veal Marsala and one called a chicken Francaise.
Sounds great. Tell me, before we get started, about some of the programs here.
Yeah, we offer a degree in culinary arts. You can get an associate's degree, you could get a certificate of specialization or a diploma. We also offer the same in hotel and restaurant business management. And about 11 years ago, I was instrumental in helping start the pastry arts program after we lost a few students to other places for pastry arts. And it's doing very, very well. So all of our programs are well attended. We have a lot of students and a lot of interest.
And it has become so much more popular, and I could see why. We're going to find out tonight. We'll be right back in just a moment, and we're going to start on our Veal Marsala and our chicken Francaise. Cooking Classic will be right back.
Hello, I'm Aaliyah, a culinary student at Luzerne County Community College, and I'm here with your culinary tip of the day. Fresh herbs are a way to add color and flavor to your dishes. Fresh herbs are also found in your local grocery stores. Parsley is your first herb. Parsley can be used for multiple things. You can use the stems for flavoring your stocks and soups, and also use the tops of it. You can mince the top of it, and use it as a garnish for your soups, salads, and entrees. And your second herb is basil. Basil has a soft and delicate flavor. And I often like to chiffonade it, just rolling it all up and slicing it. And you also can use this as a garnish and also adds flavor to your soup, salads, and entrees. And your third herb is rosemary. Rosemary is good to add flavor to your roasted potatoes, grilled chicken, and also your marinades. Take it right off the stem. And you mince it. And it's an easy way to add garnish and flavor to your entrees. I hope these simple tips with fresh herbs have helped you cook at home with them. This is your culinary tip of the day. Thank you. Bon appetit.
Welcome back to Cooking Classic. Chef Dave, you really have something in store for us today that is a classic.
Right. The first dish we're going to do tonight, Jane, is a dish called Veal Marsala. So as you can see, we have our veal here that we wanted to pound out nice and thin because veal should be very, very tender. So we've pounded it out so it'll be nice and thin, and also so it will cook easily. Now, some people do this and some people don't, Jane, but I really like to flour. When I'm sauteing, I like to flour the meat before it goes in the pan, and for a couple of different reasons. Number one, I think it helps to caramelize the meat, which makes it nice and brown on the exterior. Number two, I think it helps it not stick to the pan. And number three, I think it also helps us in. At some point, we're gonna make a thickened sauce here. So I think that the flour, the starch in the flour, helps in all that.
Do you put salt and pepper in the flour?
You know, I don't.
Okay.
And I don't season the meat either. And here's why. Because I believe if you season the meat, it brings some moisture to the surface, and then it doesn't let it caramelize as well.
Okay.
So I myself, if I'm going to season, I'll season towards the end. But I think that we're going to probably create a really nice, flavorful dish without using much of salt and pepper and those types of seasonings. So we'll see how it goes. But right now we want to have a nice high heat. The key to sauteing is to have a really, really nice high heat, so then it caramelizes the meat well. And it's one of those things that you just have to wait for. Because if you don't, we have a saying at the school that brown equals flavor. And it does, and the brown comes from the caramelization. Okay. And without that high heat, you won't achieve that. So as you can see, the heat is extremely high right now, Now, when we're making the sauce and when I reintroduce the meat in the pan, you're gonna see that I really lower the heat. So controlling the heat on the pan when sautéing is really something that you need to learn how to do.
You just have to be patient and watch it.
Yeah,
right?
sometimes cooking is about being patient.
Sure.
So you can see it's getting nice and caramelized around the edges. We're creating some nice color. And I mean, in teaching here, I teach the kids that, hey, teach the students that, hey, when you do that, you can actually see the flavor, okay? So, you know, brown does equal flavor. And what we're going to do is we're going to do the same exact thing on the other side to provide that caramelization. And one thing about sautéing, for people who cook at home, it's a really fast way to cook. And it's a very fast, very easy, so you could have restaurant quality food on the table in less than a half an hour.
Sure.
If you have your prep done ahead of time. Okay?
And you do. You have everything, all the ingredients and the portions. Yeah.
Everything ready to go. And if you do that, I think that you could have really, really high quality food on the table in less than just a few minutes. So now you see, now some chefs wouldn't agree with me here. Some chefs would. That when I'm sautéing, I like to remove the meat from the pan. And the reason I like to do that is because if I leave the meat in there when I'm creating the sauce, I feel that it creates steam, and then the steam affects that veal in not so good of a way. It makes it kind of tough. Okay, so now we're going to create the sauce, but the meat is not in the pan when we do so. And Jane, I was wondering if you might be kind enough to hand me those shallots.
Sure.
That's the thing that we're going to start to create a sauce now. Okay, so we put a little bit of butter in the pan. Now we're going to put some shallots, and I'm going to turn the heat on to about medium here. And shallots are like a cross between the flavor of garlic and onion, and they have a very, very delicious flavor with veal.
They're like a cousin to the onion.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And if you notice, we minced them really small too,
Sure.
because they're rather strong. So we minced them so they won't be overpowering. Now, Jen, can you hand me those mushrooms as well? We just have some sliced white mushrooms here. If you wanted to, you could use other types of mushrooms. You can use cremini mushrooms or shiitakes, whatever you like. You know, so this is just a basic recipe, and you could change it if you wanted to. If you don't have Pennsylvania mushrooms and you have oyster mushrooms, well, there's nothing wrong with using that. Now, as these mushrooms are getting a little bit of color on them and all that kind of stuff, and you can see the mushrooms have soaked up a good deal of that butter. But now, I'm going to put a little flour in the pan here, Jane. And what we're doing here is we're going to try to create a roux in the pan. A roux is equal parts of flour and fat. And what it does, as it cooks, it releases the starch, and the starch helps to thicken the sauce. So that's kind of what we've done. Now, if you could hand me the Marsala wine. And I like to use sweet Florio Marsala. I like that one the best. And again, when you put wine in the pan, you want to be careful, because it does have a tendency sometimes to flame up.
That looks great.
Like so, and can you smell that wine, and you can smell the butter and all kinds of nice stuff happening in there. I'm just going to put just a touch of pepper in there, just to season up those mushrooms a little bit. Now, Jane, if you could hand me that broth, we're going to put some of that broth in the pan.
Now, is this a dish that comes from France, would you say, or?
Yes, I think a Marsala is from Europe. Most of all of our cooking does come from Europe in some way, shape, or form. It's called classical cooking.
Sure.
So yes, I think that it would. You know, a lot of the classic sauces and those types of things, you know, come from Europe, and you know, and then they were neatly categorized for us by a few of the European chefs that became very famous, and we have furthered them in this country, and now we're starting actually to take those classic recipes and change them a little bit to fit as what's happening in our world, which actually makes a lot of sense, as a lot of cooking tends to be from Europe tends to be laden with fats and a lot of those types of things So you know, some people want to eat a little bit healthier. We can we can prepare some of these dishes not using so much butter, and you know, using different broths and those types of things. So we can still keep the recipe kind of the same, but change it for what our needs are. Now, if you can see, you know, I have the heat on very high now, Jane, because I want that sauce to reduce. And as the sauce is reducing, what happens is it gets thicker, and you can see. Can you see now it's
Sure.
getting thicker?
Yes.
And as that happens too, the flavors, every flavor that's in here, it's intensified, which is good for us as well. But you can see the meat is still not in that pan.
Right.
Okay. Because if it would be, you would find that at the very end, the veal would be tough. And in the restaurant business, if you have tough veal,
That doesn't work.
I don't think you should have done a menu. You know, you should just take it off the menu. But I think we're getting there. I think that this sauce is just about where I need it to be.
Okay.
Okay, and we're making some accompaniments to go with this, Jane, as well. I've got some parsley red potatoes, and I've got some fresh green beans. And with a sauté dish like this, I think that that's what you would serve. You would serve fresh vegetables and those types of things, and things that would enhance the color and the presentation of the dish. So we've heated that back up. You can see I've turned the heat way down on the dish. Now I'm going to reintroduce the meat to the pan.
But you can see how thick that sauce got.
Exactly, and that's exactly what we're looking for it to do. And if you notice, when I was scraping the bottom of that pan, I was using a wooden spoon. There's a thing called the fond. When you brown meats and you brown food, there's a thing called the fond, and you can actually see it. Okay, and it sticks to the pan as well. And what you do is you take a wooden spoon and you release those flavors, and it really does add a lot of flavor to the dish. And I like using a wooden spoon because I think if you use a metal spoon, I think it tends to have a metallic type taste. Okay, so I'm just going to finish this off with a little bit of parsley, like so. And Jane, if you'd be kind enough, we'll put a plate up, and we can start to plate this up. And all the time when I'm thinking about plating food, I'm thinking about the appearance. I'm thinking about, you know, how to make it beautiful, and all that kind of stuff, and using different colors.
That looks great.
So, yeah, thank you. And you can see the color of the meat. You can see we've taken some time to caramelize it well, and all that kind of stuff. There's not an overabundance of sauce, but there's enough. And sometimes I just like the way that food just flows out of a pan, just like so. And then what we can do is we can put our beans on one side, like so. And what I did is I just steamed these green beans really quickly and shocked them in water so they keep that beautiful color.
And not overcooking them.
Exactly, yeah. And we just simmered the potatoes a little bit. And then we put just a touch of butter on the top of them. And then at the very end, we can take just a little bit of parsley and just put a little parsley over the potatoes, a little bit more parsley on the veal. And Jane, that's our dish, a Veal Marsala with parsley potatoes and fresh green beans. And I think we can taste the sauce and that kind of thing, and we'll see how we've fared out.
Looks great.
Need anything?
Not a thing.
I think it's fine just the way it is. Yeah, I think we've done a good job. I just want to wet this off here a little bit.
Oh, it's delicious.
That's kind of like I said, restaurant quality food in a half an hour or less at home.
Half an hour or less. Well, when we come back, we're going to be making some chicken francaise.
Chicken francaise.
Okay?
Right.
All right. Cooking Classic will be right back. That's delicious.
Bring this over to here. Hi, my name is Jim Gavanis, and I am the faculty photography instructor at Luzerne County Community College. start with the very basics on how to use cameras, how to control how our photographs look, lighting. Our students really work in a wide variety of areas after leaving here. We've had students work as photojournalists, as sports photographers for the Olympics. We've had students work in portraiture and be flown all around the world, including Paris, and they can open up their own studios. Many assist other photographers to even gain more experience, and some go on to a 4-year degree. But our students really get so much hands-on experience that they are prepared to go out into the real world and work in really any area, whether it be photojournalism or food photography. The faculty here are working photographers. We own our own businesses. We are working in the real world with clients every opportunity that we're not here. And so we're able to bring those real life experiences into the classroom. No matter how prepared you may be, something always comes up. They are better prepared to problem solve. If you're interested in photography, I encourage you to visit Luzerne County Community College and see for yourself the opportunities that we have for you.
Welcome back to Cooking Classic. I'm Jane Adonisio here with Chef Dave Pembleton. We are here at the Luzerne County Community College Culinary Institute, and now Chef Dave is going to teach us how to make chicken francaise.
Okay, Jane, this one's a little bit different. It's a little bit more involved,
Okay.
but it's really not that very hard, okay? So we've got some chopped parsley that we're going to put in. We're going to make a little bit of an egg batter, okay? We're going to put a touch of black pepper, like so, and we're going to put a little bit of Parmesan cheese, like so. And we're going to make a little batter to coat the chicken. And it's a very, very nice way to do chicken, and it keeps it really, really, really nice and moist and all those types of things. So we just beat them up together, and I've just got about 3 or 4 eggs in here. And what we're going to do is, you notice this time I've got a little bit more oil in the pan.
Yes.
And that's because I have this egg, okay? But still, and I'm using chicken tenderloins, Jane, and you can tell again that I've actually pounded them out, okay? So you have to put them through the flour first, and then into the pan. And you should hear that noise. You hear that noise that it starts to sizzle? If you don't hear that, it might not be a good thing, because if you don't hear that, the egg will probably just stick to the bottom of the pan, and then you'll have a real mess on your hands. Okay, so getting the pan to the right temperature, getting to the oil to the right temperature, sometimes in cooking, especially with sautéing, is really kind of important.
And when you say pound it out, you take a mallet and you make it nice and thin.
I just make it real, and for a couple of reasons. Number one, it helps to tenderize it. Number two, it helps it cook really, really quickly, and it gives more surface area for caramelization.
I see.
So for those reasons, we like to do that. Okay, and we're just not going to rush that along. We're going to let that do its thing. Like so. I like to use chicken tenderloins because, as in the name, they are always tender, and they're always about the same size.
As opposed to chicken breasts.
Yeah, if you see the chicken breasts in the stores now, they're so big.
Right.
When I saute, especially, I like to choose chicken tenderloins, and that's what I've done today. And you just don't have any problems with them. Sometimes there's a little bit of cartilage at the very top of the chicken tenderloin, so I just take that off.
I see.
And once I take that off, I'm good to go. So we're just going to loosen these up a little bit, like so. Now you notice that there's a lot of oil in the pan, a lot more than there was before, and we're going to have to take that out, because if you don't, when you're trying to create a sauce, it will make the sauce really, really greasy. Okay, so as soon as it's browned on one side, then we'll brown it on the other side, and then we're going to take this oil out. And again, we're looking for some type of brownness. You're starting to see some color. Okay?
Oh yeah.
Whenever you see color, you know you know that you're getting more flavor. You see, and then we're just looking for that And since it's pounded out, it cooks really quickly. It's really not a matter of even have to wait very long at all for it to cook. It doesn't take long at all. Yeah. And out in the industry, sometimes minutes and seconds mean a lot. So anything you can do for ease in preparation and for quickness, I think is a good thing. And for home as well. A lot of people are working, two people are working in the family, and there's not a whole lot more time for food preparation like there used to be. Sometimes you want to have a really good meal, but you don't have a lot of time to prepare it. This is one of those things, chicken tenderloins, you pound them nice and thin. If you have your stuff cut up and ready to go, you could have this chicken dish on the table in probably less than 30 minutes or so. And one thing I like to serve with this particular dish, I really like to serve a rice pilaf, which is rice that's sauteed with a little onion and then cooked in a little bit of chicken broth until it's nice and fluffy. And we've got some nice fresh broccoli today to accompany our chicken francaise dish.
And if you have these basics in your house, the eggs, the flour, the butter, you're almost good to go with this, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so I think that we're doing pretty well there. Okay.
Great.
So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this flame off. Okay. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to kind of gather these chicken tenderloins. I just want to get rid of that oil out, like so. And now we can start to create a sauce for our dish. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to start with a little bit of butter, like so, on each side.
It smells great.
Okay, a bit of butter, a touch of garlic. Now, after that melts down a little bit, okay, we already have our parsley in the egg wash, so we don't need that. So now we're going to put, just like we did before, we're going to start with a little bit of flour, okay, and we're going to take our wooden spoon again, and we're just going to stir that through. Just going to stir that through, and that's going to create a roux for us, and then we can start to create our sauce, okay, like so. And you notice the bottom of the pan, I did have one chicken tenderloin that I had pounded out, but I didn't want to crowd the bottom of the pan, because if you crowd the bottom of the pan, what happens is it doesn't caramelize, it doesn't cook as well.
I see.
So that's why I kind of didn't do that. So Jane, if you'd be kind enough to hand me that white wine.
Sure.
And again, I always take it off the fire when I put the wine in there, because you never know, it could flame up at you at any time. Like so. We're going to let that cook till the alcohol all cooks out.
Okay.
And if you'd be kind enough to hand me some broth there. Yeah, it's pretty much the same method as the veal dish, but we're using different ingredients.
Sure. Similar dishes, but
Yeah, very similar, but the method is what remains the same, and that's what we teach at the school. We teach that the method of cooking is far more important than working with a recipe.
I see.
Recipe, it's good to know what ingredients you need and all that kind of stuff, but learning the method of cooking, the sautéing method, you notice when we did the Veal Marsala and the chicken francaise, it was almost identical in the method, but just the ingredients have changed a little bit. Okay, and we're just going to let that simmer. We're going to turn down the heat a little bit, and while that's happening, I'm going to turn on our broccoli here a little bit, Jane. And Jane, if you could be kind enough, we can bring that plate up.
Sure.
We can bring that plate up, and we already have our rice pilaf already plated on there.
That's great. I love how you put the flour in. I would be worried that the flour might get lumpy, but the way you did it,
No,
perfect.
if you mix it in with the butter,
Right.
that's
Okay.
the key.
Okay.
You got to mix it in with the butter so it gets like a paste. And then you have to cook it a little bit, because if you don't cook it a little bit before you put the liquids in, many times it remains to have that pasty, floury taste, and you don't want that either.
No,
But
the texture looks beautiful.
Right, and you can see the chicken's nice and brown, and it's just the sauce is really, really nice, and it's about the right consistency. The broccoli, we just steamed it really quickly, and then we shocked it, which means to put in ice water, and that way it keeps a beautiful color. So all these little things, they make the difference
Yeah, these are-
when you're creating good food, you know, at home.
Sure,
and
these are the
it's really not that
tricks.
hard.
Yeah, the tricks
You know,
and the
it's
tips,
really
yeah.
it's really not that hard.
That looks amazing.
Smelling good, right?
It does. The aroma. Oh,
Right.
so nice.
Okay, and I think what we can do now, I think we can actually plate this up. So we're going to come over here, and I'm going to put this right over the top of the rice because that's the way I've always served it, and it makes it look bigger, I think. And I think that the rice goes very, very well with the chicken,
Very nice.
like so. And then we can put this last one right on the top. And I'm gonna just reduce that sauce down just a little bit more.
Okay. And while you're doing that, I'll just remind everyone that for recipes and to see shows, you can always go to luzerne.edu/cookingclassic.
Very good. And I think our sauce is about ready.
Great.
So we're going to put our sauce over the top. And again, I don't like to see a whole lot of sauce, just enough to coat the food. And then we'll put the nice broccoli florets.
It's
Like we
so
have here.
colorful, so fresh looking.
Right. And that's what, and actually it's quite easy too. People think cooking is like really hard and all that kind of stuff. And it's really not that difficult. And then we're going to put a little bit of lemon wheel on the side for a garnish, a parsley sprig. And right at the very end, for a nice beautiful fragrance, what I'm going to do is I'm going to squeeze a little bit of this lemon right over the top, like so. And the fragrance from that, I think, is really quite nice. You know, some people put it in the sauce, but I think it's really nice just spread over there at the very end, like so. And I'm going to put a couple cherry tomatoes in there, Jane, just so that
colorful.
that's kind of our version of chicken franchise here at the school.
Very
And,
nice.
I think it looks good.
Beautiful, so appealing to the eye too.
We didn't taste the sauce.
Okay, we will.
Let's see if it needed anything. It's lemony,
Delicious.
rich, very nice.
You did it once again.
Okay.
Thanks, Chef Dave.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll see you again next time here on Cooking Classic. That looks so good.